Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Morgan You Know podcast, a conversation show about sports and sports entertainment. My name is Rod Morgan. I will serve as your host. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us. We appreciate it. All we ask is that you like, subscribe, follow, whatever, in whatever particular platform you happen to be enjoying this, be it YouTube, be it Spotify, be it Apple, be it TikTok, be it, I don't know, something else I'm forgetting that our wonderful executive producer, Jimmy Jamriska, will remind me of right now. Jimmy, hello.
Yeah, you've hit everything there, Rod. Williams needs to remember to hit the center of his frame for all of our shorts that you can see on YouTube, on TikTok, and of course on Instagram that everyone loves. We're actually getting some really good feedback. Really appreciate everybody taking the time to watch and feedback on our comments. We've gotten some good ones too, Rod. A lot of people agree with you. Some people hate you.
Yes, and that, you know what? That is the polarizing way that having opinions and actually believing the things that you say. I want to say hello to all of you folks who are checking us out as well, but I promise you, we do not do anything for clicks or for attention around here on the Morgan You Know podcast. Everything that we say, everything that we say, we believe. All right. We are not engagement farming in any way, shape, or form. We're attempting to talk about sports, hopefully the way you talk about sports with your buddies. We just have one little ace in the hole around here, though. We have a guy who's our very own football handicapper. He crunches the numbers. He's got formulas. He's making the bets. He's doing all this work, and he's nice enough to share the things that he uncovers in his research with us. He's our football handicapper, Josh Williams. Josh, hello.
What's up, boys? This is a fun week. We got 5 or 6 teams here ready to dig in here.
And we are a man down. We normally are joined by our good old friend, Chris King. He is off with Count Binface right now. The election did not go the way they were hoping for over in jolly old England there. Count Binface came in second to Nigel Farage. So we are not getting a new hand dryer in the pub. Binface will not be the next prime minister of England. And Chris is off sulking. Jimmy, I'm not entirely sure when we're going to see Chris again. I'm a little worried.
Between that and the fact that the Cowboys really aren't relevant anymore, he's really sad. See, I can say this because he's not here.
I love it. I love it when Jimmy gets his Chris shots in when Chris isn't here. We will have Chris back with us next week. One of Chris's favorite things on the show is the cold open question. The guys sometimes, I'll be honest with you, have an idea of what I'm throwing at them. Like last week, for instance, I wanted them all to try to dig up pictures for their school outfits. This week, Jimmy and Williams have zero idea what I am about to ask them right now. So you are here for a true cold open question of the week. On July 17th, 2026, comedian Shane Gillis put on a performance at Lincoln Financial Field for 73,496 paying customers, setting a world record for the most ever attendance to a solo comedy show. Jimmy, you can get a Guinness Book of World Records employee to show up for you to break a world record for just about anything if you pay them. So I ask you, James Thomas Jamriska, graduate of the Plymouth High School class of 1998, what world record could you break?
Might be in the running for most hot dog related paraphernalia that has been given to him by coworkers and family. And this really does stem, Rod, from one of our first ever Morgan You Know appearances together, or my appearance on the Morgan You Know before I was the executive producer, thank you. When I said, is a hot dog a sandwich? And I went off that it's not. Well, I mean, I've got my emotional support hot dogs that a coworker gave me out of nowhere, by the way. This wasn't a going away gift when I left. This was a, hey, I saw these emotional support hot dogs and I'm going to give them to you. How crazy is that? I've got as a going away gift, someone gave me a hot dog sign that I have. I've got so many hot dog related materials. I've got hot dog Band-Aids, Rod. Someone got me hot dog Band-Aids.
You do?
So that's what I could do.
You do get rather fired up when the old hot dog sandwich debate comes up. So I'm not the least bit surprised by that. Maybe we need to get a hold of somebody over there at the Guinness headquarters, bring them around, have you gather up all of your hot dog paraphernalia, and perhaps we'll try to set that live on the podcast. That could be a good little video short for us someday, Jimmy. Try to track all that hot dog paraphernalia down, as you so eloquently put it. Mr. Williams, what world record could you invite somebody from the Guinness book to show up and you could break? Come on, this be creative, be anything. It doesn't have to be something you've read in the book before. You come up with the world record.
It's probably going to be most useless sports stats of all time. I mean, shocker. Like, first NCAA basketball championship was in 1939. Don't ask me why I know that. Oregon won. Quack. I have no idea why I know that. No idea why I know how Scotty Thurman hit a shot to win the 1994 NCAA championship for Arkansas over UCLA. It's like just the most random stuff that you can think of, mostly in basketball and NFL, that sticks in my brain.
That is absolutely something I figured you would probably say. RIP to old Howie Schwab, who might have been somebody who could give you a run for your money in that world record.
He was
back
the
in the
best.
day. There's probably Stats Williams, I believe Brian Windhorst refers to him as on the Hoop Collective podcast. I feel like that's their statistician, facts and figures guy, new guy over there at ESPN. But listen, Williams, I would pay to see you go up against somebody to see if you could set that record. I'm sure it would be interesting, and just your ability to fire off all those stats would just impress all of us. Jimmy, my world record that I think I could set goes back to my days of being a cigarette smoker, and you smoke in the car, right? And what I think I could be the world record holder at is you just start to develop an inane sense of knowing when you have to ash, right? Because when you're driving and smoking, you can't always pay attention to how long the ash is. So you sometimes just have to know, hey, I'm getting to the point where if I don't ash this cigarette, it's all going to fall into my lap, or it's going to be too long. Wind gust is going to blow in, get ashes everywhere. You can't have that. So I think I could hold a world record in being able to smoke an ash directly into an ashtray and not have any ashes get anywhere without actually looking.
That's nicely done, Rod. I that's something I could never imagine doing, but I would think after, the few thousand, hundreds of thousands, you kind of have it down where it's like, it's time to go for sure. Speaking about time to go, I'm going to jump out of here real quick. Got to fix something technical on my end. If the stream ends, don't worry, folks. We'll be right back. But Rod and Williams, why don't you start with the football?
That's right. We are taking a journey at sea to preview the upcoming NFL season. We started with teams that needed a new quarterback, so they were sending out an SOS. We had some teams that were on the poop deck. They were a little bit better than those sending out for an SOS, but still probably not much to look forward to this season. We then had the catamaran excursion level where, hey, maybe things are going to work out for you. It might be good if some things break right for you, but ultimately you're probably just doing something that's not really that fun. So this week, we have teams that are right on the precipice of the playoffs. We're not talking teams that are going to be the top seeds in the playoffs. We're talking about some of the teams that are going to represent the middle and the bottom end of the tiers, right? So what do I call this tier for our journey at sea? Well, I basically thought to Titanic was the first place that I started, Jimmy. We think about how Jack Dawson, sure, he was on the Titanic, but he wasn't on the same Titanic that Rose was on. You know what I'm saying? Jack Dawson's down there in third class, right? He's got no windows. He's got bunk beds down there. He's got to shack up with 5-6 other people, right? Rose is up there. She's got her own glass windows everywhere. They got their own bed. They got the dining room they're all going to. So we got two different levels on the Titanic. So this week's tier, Jimmy, is below deck. You're on the ship. You're paid. Things are good. But once you get on the ship, you realize, you know what? There's a lot of other accoutrements for everybody else here that are the first class passenger. There are interviews with Aaron Andrews ahead of the big game on Fox. There are interviews with Maria Taylor ahead of the Sunday night football game on NBC. That's reserved for other people. That's reserved for the tiers that we're going to get to next week and the following week. This week is the below deck tier. Jimmy, what do you think of my crafting of below deck?
No, I like this because much like Jack, people might not be thinking of these teams right now, but they may become the main character eventually in this story, and then they're going to drown. But they're going to be really important for the season.
I love it, Jimmy. I love that. I knew that you would come along. Williams, we knew that you would put up absolutely no fight. You said that you would leave the naming of the tiers to us. So I appreciate you allowing us to go off on that little sojourn there. I'm excited for this week, though, because you two gentlemen's favorite team is represented here. Jimmy has his Bears hat on, loud and proud. But I'm going to make you guys wait a little bit, right? Like Tom Petty said, the waiting is the hardest part. We're going to make you guys wait to talk a little bit of Bears. I'm going to be selfish because that's what I do around here. Let's talk about a team in my Colts division and the Jacksonville Jaguars with one Ronnie Sunshine, a.k.a. Trevor Lawrence at quarterback.
And I predicted that you would start with the Jags here. And what you guys said was all based off what Vegas thinks. This isn't exactly what I think, because I think a couple of these teams are better than the teams we'll talk about next week. But we'll get there eventually. The Jags, all three main coaches are back. They're outside the top 10 in spending on all offensive positions, including bottom 3 at both running back and tight end. On the defensive side, they're spending top 10 on the D-line and at linebacker, but bottom 10 at both safety at corner. The Jags were 6th in scoring offense at almost 28 points per game last season. Head coach Liam Cohen added the 5th most EPA with his 4th down decision-making, but no receiver group let down their quarterback more than the Jags did with Trevor Lawrence. Their drop rate led the league in 25 and was the highest percentage of any team this decade. So there could be positive regression to Lawrence's completion percentage. Sack margin last year for them, -9. Penalty margin, -16. Despite those two stats, all the drops, the Jags still won 13 games last season. The strength of schedule this year, Jags 18th. Jags tied for 21st in net rest disadvantage at -3. But we give both points. We give points on both sides of the coin on this pod, and even if you filter out the drops for Jacksonville, Lawrence was still only 30th in completion rate. So how you asked, did the Jags finish 13-4 last year? They had help with 4 non-offensive touchdowns. Not just that, but 4 non-offensive touchdowns that totally flipped the script in each game. Remember, a 99-yard interception return versus the Chiefs in prime time, an 87-yard punt return versus the Niners, a 73-yard punt return versus the Texans, and a 58-yard interception return versus the Titans. Also, the Jags were the first team in NFL history to produce 30 or more takeaways in a season after recording 10 or fewer the year before. After scoring just 25 points off turnovers in 24, the D erupted for 110 points off turnovers in 2025, then ranked number 1 in the NFL. So that could be some negative regression coming their way next year on defense. The Jags also ran good in fumble luck, recovering 3.5 more fumbles than expected. They went 3-0 in games decided by a field goal or less. That doesn't sound like much, but that was the only perfect record in the league. They also went 2-0 in overtime games. They went 9-1 against teams who finished with a losing record. And Jags were also the 7th healthiest team in the league. Lawrence did take a sizable jump in the second half of the season in 2025. He was 5th in EPA per play and 4th in passing touchdown rate. And they do return all 5 starters on the offensive line. So that's good for them. On early downs, Jacksonville passed it more than 10 yards down the field at the 3rd highest rate. And the Jags did play the 5th easiest schedule of opposing offenses in 2025. Fantasy take here, Byshell Tutin's 31.3 missed tackle forced rate last year. That was the 2nd best among running backs that got at least 150 touches. So he could be possibly a running back sleeper in the mid-rounds this year.
Jimmy Jam, the 2 things that I think about with Jacksonville, Williams didn't bring up there, and I love that. That means there's other great stuff that people should be focusing on. But I want to know, is Liam Cohen the real deal? Because I think that guy made some bold decisions last year, and we've seen how it starts out really, really great when you make a lot of bold decisions, but then it can swing the other way on you, and then all of a sudden we get the pitchforks out. And my second question was, whatever happened to Travis Hunter? Wasn't he going to revolutionize football, playing both sides, and the Jags were giving up picks because they were actually drafting 2 people by drafting 1? I didn't hear Williams mention Hunter in there.
So, Rod, I think you and Williams both hit on a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Byshell Tutin is the key to the Jags because if they can't start that running game, then their receiving core is going to be in trouble. Brian Thomas Jr., I think I had more catches than he did last year. Not very good at all. Big sleeper, though. Maybe they want to get him back involved there. Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, you kind of never know what's going on. But like you said, Travis Hunter was going to be this revolutionary player. Gets hurt early, doesn't play anymore, and now they're talking, well, I think he's going to play a little bit more defense, maybe a couple plays here on offense. So really, you're not thinking of him as a wide receiver. You're thinking of more of the defensive back, which, like you said, does that really mean that you had to give that much up for him?
Williams, let's go to you on the coaching stuff. This is one thing that you will bring up week to week when we start doing our weekly recap shows. You'll always talk about a questionable decision that a coach made. I know you like when coaches go for stuff, but are you worried that maybe we're going to see the other side of the coin a little bit this year for old Liam?
Well, I think he was good in last year. I think a lot of those stats that we talked about with Trevor Lawrence, especially in the second half of the year, he was learning that offense. And I like aggressiveness on first downs. What I had a problem with Cohen was the playoff game. He just didn't run the ball as much as he should have against that Buffalo front seven. I don't know if he's got too excited. First home playoff game in a while there for Jacksonville, his first playoff game coach. So you hope that he corrects that. But I'm a big fan of Liam Cohen. We'll see if and they did trade. The GM did a good job trading for Jacoby Myers midway through the year, and a big reason for that was because Jacoby Myers just doesn't drop passes. And he knew that his wide receivers were number one in dropping passes. So you had that with Parker Washington's just out of nowhere season, and nobody even Travis Hunter, the hype you hope is real on him. If you're a Jacksonville fan, no one even really talks about Brian Thomas Jr. anymore on the outside. So we'll see. They have a lot of weapons. So yeah, we'll see. Jacksonville is a very interesting team this year.
Yeah,
Jags in the AFC South. I know. My goodness, Jimmy. I'm so enthralled in what Williams was saying there. I forgot that I was on mute. The Jags are in the South with my Colts. We touched on the Titans already. We touched on the Colts. You know what? Let's just go ahead and close out the AFC South. If the Jags don't win the AFC South, if the Colts don't win the AFC South, it's probably going to be the Texans, right, Williams?
You would think Houston's strength of schedule, 11th toughest this year. Net rest advantage tied for 6th most at +8. Sack margin last year +16. Penalty margin -7. And Brandon Thorne's O-line rankings 27th for Houston heading into the year. So they need some help there on the offensive line. The spending breakdown, overall offense up 8 spots to 22nd, bottom 6 in spending on the O-line and at running back, which seems to be a theme for them in the last handful of years. Top 10 at the tight end position in spending and top 5 at the wide receiver position in spending. But they were just dealt a huge blow in the last few days. Jaden Higgins at wideout is going to miss the entire 2026 season after he tore his ACL at a joint practice this week. Big blow there for them. Defensive spending surprisingly dropped 21 spots to 28th on the D-line for this upcoming year. Linebacker still top 5, safety bottom 10 in spending. A little surprising there also. So we know D'Amico Ryans has a good D. Let's talk about the OC, Nick Caley, who was with the Rams in 23 and 24 as their pass game coordinator. And be sure, I will complete this circle here. Just stay with me. Overall, the Rams were a top 5 offense, but inside the 10 during that time frame, the Rams ranked number 12 in red zone touchdown rate and number 15 in goal to go rate. Their completion rate when using 3 wide receiver sets inside the 10 ranked 28th, compared to their completion rate when using less than 3 wide receiver sets, 83%, good enough for number 1 in the league. Fast forward back in time, Michael J. Fox and Huey Lewis style, the Rams dropped from 92% usage of 3+ wide receiver sets when passing on early downs all the way to 66 inside the 10. The result, the number 1 in touchdown rate, number 2 in success rate, passing on early downs in the red zone. And you don't have to be a genius like me to figure out that was a big reason why Stafford won the MVP. So we started out talking about the Rams because OC Nick Caley was hired by Houston after the 24 season he spent in LA, implementing a very similar offense which struggled mightily in the red zone, largely in part of him using too many three wide receiver sets. Texans running back rushing stats in the red zone last year, 29th in success rate, 31st in yards per carry. How about CJ Stroud's passing? 40th in success rate, 41st in yards per attempt, 25th in completion rate. That is yuck. Rest of the field, Stroud wasn't terrible though. Number 17 in yards per attempt, number 13 in EPA per attempt. So Nick Caley has to realize this. He has to realize what Sean McVay realized going into last year, and that's you got to use heavier formations inside the 10, and more specifically, don't be afraid to pass out of those formations. And look, Stroud has to play better in the playoffs. I get it. If he's going to get the Texans over the hump, 0 touchdowns with 5 picks and 6 sacks isn't going to get it done. The overall offense was 28th in success rate last season. Special teams, the Texans were first in field goal luck over expectation. There was a 25% difference in make percentage when comparing Houston's kicking game to their opponents. That's an astonishing mark. And to help with the red zone efficiencies, the Texans signed an old friend and former Bear David Montgomery. He was top 16 in red zone touchdowns last season, even though he shared a backfield with Jahmyr Gibbs. So there's some optimism there on the offensive side of the ball for the Texans.
Listen, you make a reference to Huey Lewis, and I'm on your team always and forever. You make a reference to Back to the Future. I'm on your team always and forever. So, Williams, I absolutely love that. One of my favorite parts are your scripted jokes that you throw in from time to time during your breakdowns. I absolutely love that. I know Jimmy enjoys that as well. And my question about the Texans goes to the quarterback, like it so often does. CJ Stroud, Jimmy, when he was a rookie, we also, this is the guy. And then we've had 2 years where he hasn't really been the guy, and he doesn't have a contract right now. And I think there's a whole lot of people out there kind of wondering, what sort of contract is CJ Stroud going to sign? Because I think Baker Mayfield wants to use that as a jumping off point. I think Drake May wants to use that as a jumping off point. And what are we going to see out of CJ Stroud, Jimmy? You're a former Buckeye.
I think CJ Stroud is going to finally get where he needs to go this year. Listen, he's made the playoffs 3 years in a row, won 3 first-round playoff games in a row. Like we said, we've talked about it a lot on this podcast. Crappy season, or yuck last year, as Williams said. This year, I think he got a little too far ahead of himself, and he did not have Tank Dell. Tank Dell was his blanket. He loved Tank Dell. He is back. Let's get him in. Let's get him going. That first, streak down the side, he's going to be fine.
Tank Dell, excellent call out of you there, Jimmy. I got to admit, though, man, I despise the Texans. I despise the Jaguars. Like, just they beat my Colts in games, especially the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars I despise a little bit more because they have no business beating the Colts sometimes, and they beat the Colts. Like, do I need to go back to the Carson Wentz game? Do I need to go back to that for any Colt fan? My goodness. But we're done with the AFC South. We've talked all about it now. It's time to move on to some other teams who are below deck, right? They're on the ship. Things might get them to the playoffs, but they're probably not the high-ranking rungs of the playoffs, except for maybe one team, Williams, that I was interested to see here, and that's the Denver Broncos. You hear a lot of people telling you the Broncos are maybe the favorite in the AFC. You hear a lot of people telling you Sean Payton is the cat's meow. I don't know why I just went cat's meow, but I did. When it comes to coaches, what do you got for us on the Broncos?
Yeah, sorry. And the first two teams over 9.5 there. That's the same with Denver. It's over 9.5 minus 115. That could possibly seem low, but this is a very interesting breakdown with this team here. And how many people would have guessed that Bo Nix would have led the NFL in passing attempts last season? Well, that's exactly what happened. Not only that, he had over 600 attempts. There's been just 2 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL to lead their teams to 14 wins, yet still throw over 600 pass attempts. That's Patrick Mahomes in 2022 and Bo Nix in 2025. How about that little tidbit that might win you a beer at the local saloon with your fantasy buddies? Strength of schedule, 11th easiest. Net rest advantage tied for 12th best at +3. The Broncos rank 3rd in defensive player health in 2025. And the spending breakdown up 11 spots on offense into the top 10 overall. They continue to be a top 3 spending unit on the O-line. And oh, by the way, Brandon Thorne from ETR and Warren Sharp from Sharp Analytics ranked the Broncos as having the very best O-line in the league this season. Running back spending up 12 spots to mid-pack. Wide receiver spending up 6 spots to mid-pack. Tight end spending up 12 spots to top 5. Overall defensive spending still in the top 10. Linebacker and cornerback spending both inside the top 10. Safety top 5. So this organization is spending everywhere while they can, with still not having to break the bank yet on Bo Nix until after the 27 season. That defense was 1st in yards allowed per play, 3rd in pressure rate, and number 1 in punts per drive last season. They bring back the top 10 defenders based off of snap count into the 26th season. And the sack margin in 2025 was +45. That's insane. Penalty margin -6. They were dead last, though, in net penalty EPA, so they had some costly high yardage penalties. They had the 2nd worst opposing field goal luck and were also 25th in fumble luck. In 2024, the Broncos were 1-6 in one-score games. In 2025, they totally flipped the script and went 11-2 in those games. And despite that record, Denver trailed in 15 games last year. No team that has won 14 games in a season has ever trailed in at least 15 games in NFL history. There's some encouraging trends from week 1 preseason, and this is where it gets interesting. They increased their air yards per attempt in the first half on early downs from 7.1 last year to 13.8 in the first preseason game. That is a gigantic schematic jump, and you might think that's not that big a deal because it's preseason. I didn't think that Sean Payton was going to relinquish play calling, but it sounds like that's what's happening with Davis Webb here and the new OC. They threw it down the field more than 10 yards at a 27% clip in 2025. The first preseason game, they threw it down the field at a 55% clip. Again, huge jump. The new OC, Davis Webb, is now calling the plays, it seems like. Could be the next superstar play caller here. There's a reason why they brought in Jalen Waddle. The Denver wide receiver and tight ends were dead last in catches of 20 or more yards down the field in 2025. That could be Sean Payton's play calling. I'm not sure. Sean Payton was dead last in pre-snap motion rate last year. That was surprising. And I have a feeling that Davis Webb is going to improve that. So I came in this year trending towards Denver a little bit downward because I was super high on them last year. But if they're going to start throwing the ball down the field and scoring in the first quarter, this could be a bet on team in 2026.
I like it. I am intrigued by the play calling difference that we're going to see with the Broncos this year. You hear a lot of people talk about it. And Jimmy, I guess you can count me on the side of it sounds great now, but Sean Payton loves himself some Sean Payton. So if things start going a little awry week 2, week 3, hell, maybe even after week 1, I just worry about old Sean pulling the reins there, right? I mean, let's not forget, this is a man who had Kevin James play him in a movie about his life, all right? Sean Payton has himself a little bit of an ego.
When you have a son who loves everything about football and is, I believe, 9 or 10 years old, you've watched that Sean Payton movie dozens and dozens of times. I can't believe they made that a movie. But anyway, yes, you are right. Sean Payton may take that back right away. I am worried still, though, about the ankle and Bo Nix. Destroyed his ankle in the playoffs last season. Mobility was big for him, so that we got to watch that. I do love the fact, like William said, they brought in Jalen Waddle, but you cannot ever count on J.K. Dobbins to play a whole season. I'm sorry. He's been hurt every season except for like one. Yeah, Williams.
That's why they drafted Jonah Freeman, fourth-round running back from Washington. He's been.
What about R.J. Harvey the year before? That's what R.J. Harvey was for, and they never played him. And when they did, he played well.
Well, R.J. Harvey's a little bit different type of running back. He's kind of a scat back, out of the third down presence. But this Jonah Coleman is supposedly a kind of a bruiser like J.K. Dobbins, because I think they know that J.K. Dobbins isn't going to hold up for the entire year. So he could be a super late sleeper in your fantasy drafts, Jonah Coleman. Okay. Especially if two different metrics have Broncos offensive line as number 1 in the league.
Would you say, Williams, that Jonah Coleman would be the cat's meow, perhaps?
You could say that.
That is an absolutely great graphic right there. I had another little joke, little transition dialed up, and you brought that one in. That was much better than what I was going to go with. I absolutely love that there. You know what I was actually going to do? You said Scatman. Made me think of Scatman Crothers. You guys remember that song? I'm the Scatman. I'm the Scatman. And then I thought to myself, you know who probably really loves that song? Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is just weird enough to absolutely love that song and sing that song when he walks around coaching football in the sunshine, wearing khakis, screaming, "Who's got it better than us?" Let's talk about the Chargers.
Yeah, Chargers over 9.5, also minus 135. So there's a lot of juice there. In comes DJ Mikey McDaniel at OC. We'll get to him a little later with a remarkable stat. Strength of schedule, 13th toughest, net rest advantage, dead last, minus 24 days. This is where I go on a rant about the stupid NFL scheduling. Absolute travesty what the NFL is doing to the Chargers this year. They face 4 opponents off a full bye, 2 more off a mini bye, and 1 with an extra day of rest. The net rest day disadvantage is the worst the league has seen in 13 years. Why does the net rest disadvantage matter? Well, the Chargers last year were 25th in offensive player health and 23rd in defensive player health. No Charger offensive lineman played in all 17 games last season, and I don't see that having a chance to improve much when you have that significant of a disadvantage throughout the year. And they just lost their center, Tyler Biadasz. So that's another big blow. But this is why the Chargers went out and added 3 offensive linemen in free agency and 4 more in the draft. The sack margin last year, minus 15, penalty margin minus 4. Thorns O-line rankings 5th, but they just lost their center. Like I said, Tyler Biadasz, possibly for the year, and another joint practice injury from this last week. Last year, the Chargers O-line ranked dead last in pass block win rate, dead last in PFF run blocking rate, next to last in run block win rate, and third worst in PFF pass blocking grade. Herbert was hit 129 times. That's number one most in the league. For context, Bo Nix, who we just talked about, dropped back 54 more times in the pocket than Herbert. He was hit only 71 times. 11 teams won at least 11 games last year. They averaged 34 sacks taken. Only one team took 50 sacks or more, and that was the Chargers, who took 60. The O-line was the third most injured in the league in 2025. Spending breakdown, overall on offense down 7 spots to mid-pack. O-line down 14 spots to 19th. Running back down 9 spots to 22nd. Wide receiver down 4 spots to 31st. Tight end down 13 spots to 31st. So where are they spending all their money? It's in the quarterback room. Number 2 highest paid unit in the league, Justin Herbert. Defensive spending overall down 4 spots to 23rd. D-line down 2 spots to 26th. Cornerback still bottom 5 spending, but safety, they stay at number 1 overall spending. So these following stats are a comparison from last year to what they did in their first preseason game and first halves and early downs. This is similar to what we just talked about with Denver. Why on first halves on early downs, you ask, these data points are stickier than, say, a third down in the fourth quarter. More teams are playing hurry up or slowing it way down in the fourth quarter, facing more exotic blitzes based on game flow. So there's a lot of variance with those. So let's stick with the early downs and first halves. The Chargers increased their rate of 2+ running back sets from 35% all the way up to 77% with MYK McDaniel. They increased their air yards from 7.3 to 9.6. Baby, this is the MYK McDaniel effect. Last year, the Chargers were 29th in red zone touchdown rate. They were 22nd in pre-snap motion rate. And without pre-snap motion, they were bottom 4 in EPA per attempt. These are all things that MYK McDaniel will fix in 2026. Tua had a touchdown rate of at least 4.8% every season under McDaniel. For some context, Mahomes hasn't had a touchdown rate over 4.5% since 2022. And so I think Herbert's in for a huge year here for the Chargers.
All right,
you have
so
to be
Rod,
watching.
go ahead.
Jimmy, I got this. You have to be watching, all right, every once in a while, okay? Because these comments, the lovely, lovely fans we have that check us out live, and we appreciate you. Mark, the Crippler Allen, we see you. Ed Leon up in the region, we see you. Corey Nance, we see you from time to time. And Corey Nance comes in with an absolutely dynamite comment, drops it on the screen. Jimmy and I read it, lose it, and Williams cannot be bothered. He sees Jimmy and I losing it, but he has got his script and he is sticking to it. He read the Nance comment and he's going to blow right by it. Jimmy and I keep waiting for our time to jump back in, and Williams has got his script. It was just, that was the Morgan, in a heartbeat right there, wasn't it, Jimmy?
It was, he noticed it. I saw a smile, but he kept going. And then, of course, Nance comes up with a dunk right over Williams. He has the record for most handwritten stats notes books. But here's the thing, Rod, and Williams, that was a lot of good info. It really was, and I do appreciate it. I'm done with the Chargers. I don't care about the Chargers. I don't care about Justin Herbert. I don't care about Jim Harbaugh. Their center. I'm glad the Bears, Biadasz was the Bears guy. They were thinking about getting him too. That sucks that he's hurt. Don't care about him either. Omarion Hampton, enjoy your second year. That's perfect. Ladd McConkey, love the name. Don't care.
Yeah, Jimmy does have a bad history with the Chargers when they were in San Diego, the Chargers when they moved to LA, just the Chargers period. It just doesn't usually go well when he gets behind the team with the lightning bolt for a logo. So we will let that be. Williams, I want to sidetrack you here for a second, but something that I know you want to probably talk about. We've brought up a couple of injuries here that have sidelined some teams. So what in the world is our guy, the new LaFleur, doing in Arizona, playing the hell out of his guys, and then they're getting hurt? What's that guy's deal? He played some guy like 70 snaps in the first half of his first preseason game, and then the guy got hurt. Shocker. He's got Jeremiah Love taking 15 carries in the first quarter of his first game, and then he gets a high ankle sprain. Shocker. What's going on with the second LaFleur?
I don't know. These new coaches want to come in and they want to set the precedent of, we got to be tough. We got to play every snap. Sean McVay has said this, he doesn't care. And Dan Campbell is the same way. Dan Quinn for Washington. These veteran coaches don't care about the preseason. They're getting most of their plays in either their practices or joint practices, which there's been some injuries in the joint practices too. So I don't know. I think we're getting closer to cutting down one of these preseason games from 3 to 2 and then adding a 18th regular season game, because I don't think the fans want the preseason games. I think the coaches are done with the preseason games. And these players I think, are going to come to a point where they're going to put it in the CBA where they don't want these preseason games, but because of injuries. But I don't know. We'll see.
Some new stuff maybe to be in the CBA about the preseason. Perhaps some stuff is going to need to be about the way coaches interact with insiders in the new. No, listen, we're not going to go there, but we are going to talk but we are going to talk about the Patriots. All right, Williams, we're going to talk a little bit about the Patriots before we get to the main course, the team that always thrills the nation with their T formation. We're going to get to the Bears soon, but first we got to talk about the Pats.
Yeah, Pats exactly the same as Chargers, over 9.5, minus 135. Strength of schedule, 10th easiest, but that's a huge jump up from what they played last year. We'll get to that in a second. Net rest advantage, tied for 6th most at +8. Thorns O-line rankings, 24th. It's a little surprising there, but I guess they did have all kinds of trouble at left tackle in that Super Bowl against Seattle. The sack margin, minus 13, penalty margin, +9 from last year. And this might have been the number one most positive regression team from last year. Probably them and the Bears, considering how bad the coaching was for both teams in 2024. In that year, the Pats were 3-6 in one-score games, minus 11 in turnover margin, minus 24 in sack margin, minus 11 in penalty margin. So that's a +20 swing from Jared Mayo in 2024 to Mike Vrabel in 2025. They were also number 30th in health overall in 2024. How about this flip? They were number 1 in overall health last year. So everything bounced their way. Think back to 2024. The New England Patriots were not favored in a single game at kickoff. How about that? They finished 4-13 that year. Then last year, they get the second easiest schedule in the league, rattle off 14 wins. After all was said and done, after the calculations came out to where the Patriots had actually played the easiest schedule in the last 25 years of the league. So they really took advantage of that. They go out and add A.J. Brown, Romeo Doubs.
Did you say 25 years? So we're talking like nobody since 2002 has played a schedule that easy?
Yeah, nobody since 2000, going back from last year's team.
I mean, listen, man, Patriots fans don't want to hear that, but like that's math looking them right in the face right there.
Yeah, they go out and add A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs in free agency. A.J. Brown gives them a big physical weapon on the outside that this organization has clearly been lacking for the last, I don't know, maybe a decade. Spending breakdown, offense 19th overall, O-line just outside the top 10, tight end just outside the top 5, defense top 5 overall spending, D-line, linebacker, and cornerback all in the top 10, safety up 11 spots to 18th in spending. Surprisingly, on the defensive side of the ball, the Pats were dead last in goal-to-go efficiency. So if they fix that area, watch out. I mean, the teams were scoring touchdowns on them if they just got the ball down inside the 10 on them. Drake May was number 3 in early down success rate, number 3 in total efficiency, number 2 in passing offense. On first downs, Josh McDaniels' offense is ranked number 1 in yards per attempt, number 1 in EPA per dropback, number 1 in passer rating, number 1 in passing success rate, number 2 in first down rate. Massive. And because of this, they jumped 24 spots up to first in first quarter points scored from 2024 to 2025.
There you go. The New England Patriots. Great. Good for them. Let's move on to the Bears. Jimmy, you set it up. You put it on a tee for Williams. What you get to start the Bears conversation and then give it into Williams. How about that?
All right. So watching the preseason, I've been very excited because I think Caleb Williams has it. I think it's a lot quicker for him. He knows the offense. I think Colston Loveland has it. Williams, I am still nervous about the offensive line, left tackle especially, and that defense got hurt a lot. Are they going to be able to stand up to all these offenses they're going to have to face?
Yeah, that's a good question. The Bears over 9.5 plus 110. So there's actually juice on the under here on the Bears. They bring in a new OC, Press Taylor. But let's be honest, we all know who's calling the plays in the Windy City. It's no other than our Lord and Savior, Mr. Ben Johnson. And how about the presser the other day with him kind of calling his own shot like Cignetti with IU 3 years ago? Johnson said he wants points, and more points. He wants blowouts. He wants the highest scoring offense in NFL history. If one is unaware, that would be your 2013 Peyton Manning-led Broncos with an astonishing 37.9 points per game. Yes, Ben Johnson wants the Bears to average 38 points per game this season on offense. Make the Cignetti comp with the points to Purdue, but then the highest scoring offense of all time to the equivalent of saying that Michigan and Ohio State both suck. Cignetti pulled off the unthinkable. Can our Lord and Savior do the same? Bears got their first playoff win in 15 years last year when they took down the Pack in a thrilling come-from-behind win at Soldier Field. No big whoop. But was 2025 a building block or a fluke season? The skeptics would say Bears were number 1 in turnover margin, number 1 in best fumble luck, number 7 in best field goal luck, number 3 in most fourth quarter points to win games from behind, doing it all against the number 4 easiest schedule of opponents. The great people of Chicago don't care about that. They've had to watch the debacle of Mark Trestman, John Fox, Matt Nagy, and Matt Eberdouche spending breakdown down to 10 spots overall on offense, spending to 16th, but they are still top 10 in O-line spending and top 5 in tight end spending. On defense, this may surprise some people. They are spending top 5 overall on D. That has not changed this year. Biggest jump is on the D line from 18th to 6th. Biggest drop is at safety from 9th to 28th. Under Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams improved his EPA by 19 spots in the first year of his offense up to 15th. Caleb led the league in 25 and fourth quarter comebacks. And how about this stat? In 2024, Caleb was 45th out of 46 qualified quarterbacks in sacks per pressure. In 2025, he was 5th in sacks per pressure. So plus 40 spots of improvement under Ben Johnson. But it wasn't just the passing game that improved. The rushing success rate jumped 20 spots from 2024 up to 5th in the league last year. And they were up 28 spots from 24 in runs gaining 5+ yards. The additions of Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman, and Joe Tooney on the O-line helped the Bears rank number 5 in run block win rate and number 1 in pass block win rate this last season. Drew Dahlman did retire at center, though, so that's a question. Overall picture, the Bears go from the 9th easiest schedule last year to the 6th toughest this year. On defense, last year they were 29th in yards allowed per play, 29th in yards allowed per game. But the Ben Johnson effect, the Bears were top 5 in EPA on fourth down decisions and number 1 in the league in throw rate of 10 or more air yards on early downs. Chicago in 2024 early down play action rate was the 3rd least amount in the league. In 25 under Johnson, it was used at the 2nd highest rate in the league. And one last thing, Caleb was next to last in 24 in regards to when he was pressured. He would either throw a pick or take a sack on 34% of the dropbacks. In 2025, he was the 2nd best quarterback in the league when pressured and avoiding a sack or throwing a pick. He did that on only 5% of his dropbacks. The number 1 QB in the league with that stat last year, your reigning MVP, Matt Stafford. So 6th toughest schedule, but the number 1 net rest advantage schedule in the league is your Chicago Bears.
I'm really intrigued by one factor that relates to the Bears, but it also kind of touches a couple of other teams here, Jimmy, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this. The NFL, to me, teams just seem to kind of have an identity, right? Like you can come with different coaches, you can come with different players, but like the same thing always kind of seems to happen, right? The Steelers, right? Mike Tomlin was there for a bunch of years, but like, do the Steelers play Steeler games because Mike Tomlin was their coach, or do they play Steeler games because that's what the Steelers do? So I'll be interested to see if Mike McCarthy has the Steelers playing any differently this year. And now we go up to Chicago, the monsters of the Midway. Brian Urlacher, Dick Butkus, Richard Dent, Mike Singletary. These are the Bears greats, okay? The Bears are not exactly a team that lights the world on fire on offense, okay? You guys have never really had a quarterback. You used to have to tell people Eric Kramer was your best quarterback. Then it was Jim McMahon. Then it was my guy Jay Cutler, who nobody wants to embrace, but was the best Bears quarterback for a bunch of years. And now you got this new guy, Caleb Williams, who looks great. You got Ben Johnson, who looks great. You got all these wonderful toys, to quote Jack Nicholson from the first Batman movie. But I just find it hard to believe that the Bears are going to be an offensive juggernaut, Jimmy. What do you think about my thoughts?
As a Bears fan, I agree with you. But looking at Ben Johnson this summer, especially, and how he interacts with everybody, they have a really, really good coaching staff. Like William said, Press Taylor came in offensive coordinator, but Antoine Randall L did an interview the other day, and Ben Johnson came on, and they goofed around. And it's something I've never really seen before, just kind of having that chemistry. And this is the year to do it, because next year the Bears are going to lose like 4 coaches, I think, to either offensive coordinator or head coaching roles. I believe in Ben Johnson. He is the Lord and Savior, right, Williams? So, yeah, this is offensive juggernaut type situation. I am nervous about our receiving core. Our tight end room is amazing, but we got to make sure Luther Burden and Roman Dunze are actually healthy and on the field, because if not, that could be trouble.
So Williams might just being crazy for saying that the Bears can't have a good offense because they've never had a good offense. That's just ridiculous for me to say, right?
No, I mean,
we all agree with you.
But I think obviously there's optimism in Chicago because we've never had a coach like this, and we've really never had the upside of a quarterback like this. So I have way more questions about the defense, especially if we're going to be down to like our seventh safety by week 2. Like that's not good. But I think this is going to be the best Chicago offense of all time this year.
Well, let's hope that it's a lot better than that because it's a low bar to be the best Chicago offense of all time. I'm not sure if
so I'll say top 3 offense in the league.
Okay, there we go. I was going to say because I'm just the best Bears offense of all time. I'm not entirely sure if that's
It's like 23rd in the league right now.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be mean, guys. I'm just saying that
I get it.
Facts are facts. So
Sid Luckman.
Let's hope they're
Sid Luckman.
Let's hope they're an offense like 18, right? Let's hope they're an offense like 18 back in the day, running for the Polian Colts, right? With Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and Edgerrin James and those boys in the backfield. Let's hope things are going for the Bears like that, right? That would be absolutely wonderful. Williams, I think we had a good trip below deck. Are you excited about the final 2 tiers that we will embark upon? And we'll have to make our picks, wins league draft. Like the NFL's around the corner. You got to be hyped.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah, that's great. I'm interested to see what you guys are going to put down for this upcoming 5 teams here. What you guys are going to name this tier. So we got Cincy, Green Bay, San Fran, KC, and Philly. So
listen, little peek behind the curtain. Jimmy Jam and I were going back and forth for a couple of days, and we were right up against the gun about what this one was going to be called. So I'm fairly certain I know what our number 1 tier is going to be called, but Jimmy and I will be going back and forth a little bit for what next week's tier will be called. Tune in for that. Stick around if you want to hear some wrestling talk. Jimmy and I are going to chop it up in a second.
Welcome to the Yeah We Know portion of the Morgan You Know podcast. And I just want to say, Rod, it is a pleasure to do a wrestling podcast with a true wrestling fan and not a degenerate like Chris. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always good taking shots at the old man when he's not here. He's getting a new hip.
I'm not going to lie.
He's getting a new hip.
Yeah.
So, it's good. It's good all around for the old man.
It is. I think we need to start where is Chelsea the man? Is Chelsea Green the man? Picture perfect way to make a brand new superstar. I don't think I have any notes at all. Nick Aldis did great. Chelsea Green's transformation from being a joke, from being a bit role in that promo to being someone who cares about this business, who wants to be the best, who had the chance and got ripped out. Unbelievable, Rod.
Yeah, I gotta admit, man, I was like, how are we gonna make Chelsea Green more than what you and I loved about her, right? Like we always made sure to say that like Chelsea deserves credit for making absolute, gourmet out of the meager rations that she was given, right? But I always did say to myself, what Chelsea Green is doing right now and what we're liking her for is not necessarily what a top of the card main eventer who is holding the belt does, right? So I wondered, how are we going to make that transition? And as soon as she started speaking and like the humanity of it all, Jimmy, is what did it, right? Nick Aldis came across as an actual real human being in that moment. Chelsea Green came across as a real human being in that moment. And all of us, I think, know in our hearts that there's some people in the business that are there because, in the words of Kevin Nash, I can do this. This isn't hard. I can make a lot of money, right? I think we all know that there's some people that are that. But the ones that we know ride and live and die for this business, those are the ones that we love. That's why Chad Gable's in the spot that he's in right now, and that's why Chelsea Green's in the spot that she's in right now.
And I love how they also brought Gunther out and continued that Nick Aldis situation there, so maybe that's not over yet. And then they gave Matt Cardona the rub from Chelsea Green. No pun intended at all there, but coming out to defend your wife when she didn't really need it, but when Gunther can't hit Chelsea, so bring out Cardona to maybe get him up another level. Not being the face, not being number 1 yet, but he is someone who could now. I don't know if I like the match that they had. I think that might have been a little quick, but again, it was they were in their street clothes, so it wasn't an actual sanctioned match. But I do like the fact they brought him out, a little something different. And that's what we saw these past couple weeks. Some different things, Rod.
Yeah, we need little things when it comes to the mid-card, right? Like you don't want to give a mid-carder such a huge piece to chew out of because you're not going to give them that amount of camera time to then follow through on it. You know what I mean? So like the best mid-carders have just like that one little thing that you care about, right? And I don't know about you, but when Gunther came out, I was like, pitch perfect, just like you said, because Gunther's the main heel of the entire company across both shows. You want to get heat. There's nobody that can get it quicker and better than Gunther. So him coming out to help Chelsea, I think she'd gotten herself over, but I think Gunther coming out was just that little bit of cherry on the sundae to help turn it in Chelsea's way. And then for Cardona, it's something, right? It's something where he's not just, hey, Danhausen, you're cool. Can I hang out with you? Which is basically all he had for a little while, right?
Yeah, it is. And, Cardona's just, he's so amazing. He's got everything. He's got the looks. He's decent in the ring. He's got the promo, and the camera loves him. He's been on YouTube longer than YouTube has been YouTube. I mean, really, if you think about it, Long Island IC, I believe is what it was called, from way back in the day. He was revolutionary in that. Well, speaking of revolutionary, Go ahead. You're good.
I'm just going to say, no, you're right about his charisma, though. You're absolutely right about his charisma. And if they could figure out the right way to harness it, you could be looking at a guy who kind of has a rise similar to somebody who I know we're probably going to talk about, and that's Mr. LA Knight, right? Because that's a guy who basically came and he was a mid-carder, right? But he had such presence and he had such charisma as a mid-carder that he just started to gradually be on that rise. And I think that's the only way Cardona will get there.
It is. And hopefully he takes the same route LA Knight has, because LA Knight has been consistently upper mid card for the past few years. He's dabbled in that main event scene. He's hopefully going to get back there again if they can, which, they're going that way, as we saw on Raw. I like that for Cardona. Let's see if we can get him some good matches in there as well. Okay.
He's going to need an opponent. That's the other thing too, right? It can't be Gunther. So we're going to need to figure out a way to take a little bit of what we just got off the Chelsea situation and find somebody that maybe somebody will make another offhand comment to Cardona in the back about Chelsea or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know, but it can't be Gunther.
How excited are you for CM Punk and Kevin Owens this week on SmackDown?
Man, I don't know what I want to think at this point, right? Like I'm really, really excited for it. I'm buying into the level of hatred they seem to want us to believe they have, right? I mean, that's just where I'm at, Jim. I mean, like I have so many times, but I've been back for so many years now, and my favorite part about being wrapped up in the world is like those times where I'm like, oh, is this real? And I'm smart enough to know that 9 times out of 10 it's not real, because they all know what they're doing. But it certainly does seem as if Kevin Owens and Phil do not like each other. What is it? Kevin Steen? Isn't that his real name? Isn't his real name Kevin Steen? Yeah. It certainly seems as if they don't like each other. And I think that Kevin Owens, in my opinion, is professional enough to have a match. But I don't know. I mean, we've got some evidence where if CM Punk gets a little bit mad about a creative decision or a little bit mad about some disrespect shown his way, like he's liable to do about anything, Jimmy. So I'm way interested in it, to tell you the truth. I don't even know what to think.
So I'm going to put the caveat on this like I always do. We don't know anything. We have no idea. We don't know these people. I stood next to Kevin Owens in line for Peter Pan at Disney World once, but that's about it. That's as close as I've gotten. So I didn't ask him about his relationship with CM Punk back then. But we all have those people at our jobs or in our families or, in maybe our extended friend circles who we kind of tolerate. It's like, they're fine. I'm just not my guy, not my girl, whatever. That might be what it's like. They have to respect each other, I would hope. And they're both amazing professional wrestlers, and it's going to be a battle. And I hope it goes long, and Kevin Owens better be holding that belt above his head. Let me tell you that right now. I would love it.
Do you think that's where they're going to go, though? I know that's what you want, and I think that's what all of us want. But I'm with you. I don't think that's what they're doing. Not on a SmackDown.
Did you remember that Damian Priest and R-Truth were still the tag team champions?
I did, only because I'm such a big R-Truth guy. So I'm always kind of keeping up with what my R-Truth is doing. But yeah, you could have convinced me that like somehow R-Truth was the tag team champions just by himself, because Damian Priest, it's just like it's kind of a Priest is one of those guys, you and I love him, but it's just like he never gets any momentum. It just never seems to go.
Yeah, he start, stop. He was world champion a couple years ago for a little bit. I think having those belts off is good for him, though, for sure. He needs to go back to being a single. And we have a new tag team. Well, not a new tag, an old tag, whatever. The MFTs with Haku now, their father, which I think is pretty neat. But then that brings up the next story where Shinsuke Nakamura is coming back for his annual 3-week run as a WWE superstar and bringing someone with him, probably from NXT, probably from someone from New Japan. Listen, you can put Shinsuke Nakamura on my screen any day and I'll be happy with it. I'm fine with it.
I like that you're saying the annual Shinsuke 3-week run, because it does seem as if they're kind of like, hey, we're getting to the late summer. Everybody takes a little bit of time off. We need somebody that seems like a big deal. Let's dust off.
Surf
Shinsuke.
is down, so Shinsuke
Yeah.
can come in because he likes to surf, and surf isn't as
Exactly. But what you can use that for is launching somebody else. So I think it's a good idea that they're attaching, what's her name? Tatum Paxley. Is that her name
Yes.
that they're attaching to,
Yeah.
to Charlotte and Alexa? I think that's good for her. And I think whoever gets attached to Shinsuke, it'll be good, right? Because we've had such a rush of NXT talent that some of them can get lost a little bit. So having an actual anchor like Shinsuke, the guy's going to have to, whoever it is going to have to, make for themselves. But Shinsuke's certainly going to give him a chance to have at least everybody's attention.
It is, and when your LA Knight comment earlier took me off of Tatum Paxley's because I was going there next, so I appreciate that. I do like that Tatum Paxley. Having someone be an obsessive fan always works. Mickey James worked with Trish Stratus, and I always go back to that. That works a lot, and I like it. So let's keep going with that. And again, Shinsuke, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, they get some good matches out of it.
I'm excited to see this Paxley wrestle, right? Because I've been a little critical of Alexa, right? I mean, she's had, a long road back after being off for so long. She's a little more advanced, you know what I mean? Like Charlotte even can get a little creaky at sometimes. So I like that we're adding somebody who's going to do some cool stuff for this. I also think it's an easy way to get the Charlotte Alexa breakup, but it's not going to be as raw to us with the third person being involved now, right? Like clearly she's going to do something that's going to make these two mad. It's not just going to be a straight up Charlotte shivving her in the back. And I appreciate that.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, Charlotte, Alexa thinks she's better than you. You're the queen. You're everything. But she said that you weren't really good and you're getting a little old now. What? I can't believe that. You're my favorite. And then the same thing to Alexa.
Yep.
It writes itself sometimes. Yeah, it does. Speaking of good, let's talk about Raw. Can we talk about Raw?
Good.
I had so much fun. With Raw. Let's call it out right now. Lyra Valkyria and Sol Ruka. To me, Lyra showed that they're underutilizing her so much, and they have been. This new character, we'll see where it goes, but she is a good wrestler. When you're at the spot where you need to be at the spot, Sol Ruka looks great. When you're a step slow or a step fast, Sol Ruka looks bad. This was hard hitting. I loved that about it, and everyone seemed to hit their spots, and that Soul Snatcher was great at the end.
That definitely was. That was a Soul Snatcher to be put up near the top of her best Soul Snatchers since she has arrived on the WWE roster. And I am impressed with Lyra Valkyria in that match because I would tend to give her a little more credit than Sol Ruka. Sol Ruka is definitely athletic, but I think Lyra understands more of how to put together a wrestling match than Sol does. But the one question I'd have about Lyra Valkyria, Jimmy, is doesn't it seem as if Lyra Valkyria has basically been like, hey, you remember that thing that Nikki Cross did that nobody really bought? What if I did that? That's kind of what it seems like she's doing right now.
Well, but doing it a little better than Nikki Cross was a little different character, but yeah, we'll see what happens there. By the way, Nikki Cross, a great interview on YouTube with Chris Van Vliet. I love the fact that he brings everybody like that in. I digress.
He's a good interviewer. That guy's a good interviewer.
He does a good job.
I dig that guy doing stuff for the wrestling out there. And I also, anytime he brings on Will Sasso or Dan Soder, I'm in.
So that was one of my favorite matches. I know your favorite match of the night, though, was unbelievable with, I was going to make a joke, but let's just not do it. Rey Mysterio and Chad Gable. They put on a clinic. Rey Mysterio's better now than he was 15 years ago.
It's absolutely amazing. Like, I texted you immediately after that match, and I was like, Chad Gable and Rey Mysterio gave us a match for absolutely no reason, but it was a complete banger. I mean, like, we'll forget about this match by the time we get to the Yeah We Know Is at the end of the year. And when we have other matches to stack it against, we'll say, like, okay, we can't put it as the match of the year, but it was so good. And I don't remember the exact date, but I feel like it was 2 years ago, maybe 3, something like that. I was down in Indianapolis at Dax's house for a random night. I flipped on SmackDown. This was before Dax had even come a big time WWE fan. I flipped on SmackDown, and all of a sudden, randomly, Rey Mysterio just won the United States Championship. And I remember just like popping because I was like, awesome. You know what I mean? And like Rey got me because he still has that. We still all remember the WCW, WWE Monday Night Raws, and friggin' Mysterio was part of that. You know what I mean? Like, and then he came to the WWE, and it was such a big deal. And he's got Eddie Guerrero lineage, sort of. You know what I mean? And like, we all love Rey Mysterio, and for him to come out and still be able to put on that level of match where he looks just like the scrappy underdog.
Yeah, for him to come out and do that was amazing.
But is pulling all these wild counters.
I
totally thought he was going to win that match, Jim, and I was ready for it. What a match.
He has redefined being a professional wrestler. I mean, he went from being extremely small to being a little too big to then coming back and doing a great job. He's the GM of AAA right now as well, so that works for him. I thought that was a really good moment. I know Rod's having some difficulties right now, and we'll see if we can get him back or not. I do want to talk, though, also about the Braun Breaker, Oba Femi, Paul Heyman triangle that we have going on right now. It's all pointing to Paul Heyman going with Oba Femi, which means that he's going to go with Braun Breaker, and Braun Breaker will somehow either get the win. I don't think it's going to be a clean win. It could be a count out. Something could happen, but they're not going to waste this on a Sunday night's main event for sure. But the way to do this is, I think, to have Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman reestablish their connection as the Vision. And Rod, welcome back. I appreciate you coming back because solo show, I haven't done that in a minute, so right. I do appreciate it.
I was just rolling on my thing there, and then I realized I was out.
You didn't care. Yeah, I was like, I hope this isn't going over on the video because sometimes it does. But I was talking about the Braun Breaker, Oba Femi, and Paul Heyman segment, and everything is pointing to Paul Heyman and Oba Femi being a gigantic force to be reckoned with moving forward, which means that it's going to be Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman as a gigantic force moving forward. And I think that's what they need to do now to reestablish Braun Breaker as that gigantic heel.
So do you think we're going to have a Paul Heyman injecting himself in the match to get Braun over type situation? Right? Because, we certainly can't have Oba just going down, right? And I don't think we can also have Braun just beating Oba. But I agree with you that the best thing to do for business is to get Braun back up near the top of the card, and beating Oba Femi, even if it's dastardly, would certainly do that.
Yeah, they're definitely not wasting a huge win for either of them on Sunday night's main event. So I think Breaker's going to walk out the winner. I was saying this when you were off, I'm just not sure how that win is going to come. Is it a count out? Is it, chicanery on Paul Heyman's way? But I think it needs to be Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker moving forward. I like that more.
Yeah, because we don't really gain anything with Paul Heyman coming out with Oba Femi. We just don't, right? Like I think
Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman again.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Oba showed us that he can handle himself on the mic when he just broke into a Braun Breaker impression for no reason.
That was terrific.
I thought
completely switches his accent, which. Again, it's kind of a Kofi Kingston thing, It's like, oh, that's not how he actually talks.
Yeah, he doesn't.
But I think they did a good job with that. They're building it up pretty well. They just have too much time in between big shows right now, I think, is their big issue, because that's why we're having a Friday night SmackDown having the World Championship.
Yep.
Speaking of main events, let's go right to it. The Bloodline reformed. Solo Sikoa back in the Bloodline. He's going to destroy LA Knight, except he doesn't. He goes after Roman. I can't believe it, dude. They're making Solo he's bigger than LA Knight right now, and LA Knight's big. I love it. It's terrific. Pew pew.
Pew pew indeed. Shout out to our guy Chris. We always miss not having him riding with us. He would certainly be the counterpoint to our point about this segment right here. He hates the Bloodline. So I'm not sure what he would say about this. He likes seeing Roman go down, so I think he'd enjoy that. But I think he probably would still complain about how the Bloodline continues to be. But what Chris fails to realize is it's the dominant storyline because it's perhaps one of the greatest storylines that wrestling has ever told since the NWO. Okay? It's just quite possibly the greatest storyline that they've ever been able to tell in wrestling since then, in my opinion. All right?
And they're trying to stretch it out, just like they did with the NWO, for sure.
Exactly. So I think that any time that you can give me a segment that harkens back to Sammy turning on Roman, right? Which is a little bit what that segment had a bit of a feel like. Remember Kevin Owens locked up into the ring post and Roman Reigns directing Sammy that he has to pound down his friend, right? And Solo and LA Knight don't even have that long of a relationship like Sammy and KO did for that scene. And it still worked. And it worked because of Solo. We all buy Solo right now. Wrestling fans sometimes don't like to admit it, but we want to be taken on the ride by somebody that can talk. And Solo Sikoa doesn't get enough credit for how great of a promo man he is. He's proved it the last couple of weeks, and he's got the audience in the palm of his hand.
I thought that was a terrific segment. Always up for a Solo Sikoa pew pew, if you will. And I think with that, you've been listening to the Morgan You Know podcast. Chris, fine. Rod, take us home.
Like, comment, subscribe, please. Maybe even give us a comment. Jimmy and I would greatly appreciate that. 5 stars helps us out. It helps everybody else out. And Chris, stop being on the bender with Count Binface. Come back to the podcast so that you can properly say goodbye, net. Yeah.
Dude, is Kawhi Leonard? We didn't do NBA. Is he going to play this year?
I think so. I think he's going to play.
I think he's going to be a Raptor, right?
No, I think he's going to be a Clipper. I think
really?
What's going to happen is I think the Raptors are going to say to themselves, you know what? We don't really want any part of this. And I think Grady Dick, Brandon Ingram, come on back. We really wanted you guys.
That's fine.
Don't remember. Takes these back. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're doing here. So no, I think Kawhi's going to play for the Clippers, and all of us are going to be continued to be disgusted by NBA ownership. Matt Ishbia, Mark Walter, I see you.
It's crazy. Listen, I don't know anything about accounting or owning multiple businesses, except for the fact I know if you own multiple businesses, you can't pay one from another because that's not how it works.
Yeah,
so
Mark Walter's in some trouble.
It's crazy. And the Lakers family is the succession situation with that. That's great. And we're not talking about any of the NBA stuff. We're talking about off the court. So awesome. Good job.
Also,
NBA.
Tom Dundon, don't think that you're off my radar, my guy.
No, he's sitting back saying, he's sending flowers to these guys.
That's right.
He's like,
I'm still after.
He's like, Dundon. I'm not putting any more money into my team. I'm not doing that. That was a great ending. That was a good.